the Objectway session on wealth management in the digital era, and this is my review on this morning's session. Hi, my name is Francois du Toit. I'm the owner of Francois du Toit and Associates, and we specialize in the business of financial planning, and we do that through training, consulting, and branding for financial advisors and the practices and franchises that they work for. Today is the 15th of June. I attended the Objectway session this morning in Sandton, and I thought I'd want to do a quick review and just share with you what came out of the session. I think it was quite valuable, well organized, and a really nice venue as well. First speaker was Andy Wilson. He spoke on the transformation towards a digital client offering. Basically, he worked for Standard Bank. He was quite involved over the last 5 years in that journey specifically, and he had some very good insights that he shared, which I found quite interesting. So he started off with, everybody, obviously, when we think about digital, we sort of maybe first think about the Ubers of the world and the Amazons and so forth. And what they've really done is, the buzzword these days is disruption. Let's disrupt the industry. Let's disrupt this and disrupt that. But the way we do it mostly is through just creating some sort of a platform that connects certain parties to each other and that then talk to systems in the background. And that is exactly what Uber has done. And according to him, there's a lot of similarities between Uber and the bank or the banking space. And there's a lot of things that they have in common. The other interesting thing that he referred to was like the Apple ID, which sort of leads to a form of a digital identity. So that is quite interesting of how you can maybe with your fingerprint access everything. But you've got this digital identity aside from obviously your real life identity. Yes, so that was quite interesting. But what he said is that it's not really about the technology and the systems and the concept and the business model that really differentiates you. What really differentiates you is the design. So differentiation lies in the design of the platform. How easy it is to use, how effective it is, and the experience that the client has working with your platform. Then there were certain things, just speaking, in the wealth space, what are the drivers behind why you would want to look at a digital route or digital option for your clients? And one of the main things is that, you need to go where the money is. And so when they look at the wealth space, that's sort of what they're trying to do to use these technologies or to use these platforms or to design these platforms to actually be able to do that. But it's also sort of an interconnected offering. It's not just about one thing. It's really about the customer experience. That's really about when the client uses the platform. As I said before, is it easy? Is it intuitive? Does it look nice? Is it appealing? That kind of thing. But it's also the cross. It must bring in cross-sell opportunities, or you must be able to cross-sell through the platform and so forth. So that's quite important. Then obviously things like a digital offering versus a robo offering. It's not the same thing. I think when we think about digital, you immediately think, robo advice, so the robots are taking over. No, it's not that. So digital is just more, how do we, through a digital mean, how can we communicate and interact with clients? But it's that versus the robo advice, versus a direct, so face-to-face kind of environment. And then obviously regulation changes that's come along. There's a lot of pressure on the one hand about business models, I think on the one hand, but also the amount of admin and paperwork, so costs and time that comes as a result of regulation. So all these things is sort of driving you to have a look at other ways of doing business, of which digital is obviously one. And then I think there's a lot of new competition. So I'm just thinking off the top of my head, somebody like MobiLife. If you've never seen MobiLife, go check out MobiLife. I think it's just mobi.co.za. Total digital experience. No paperwork, no nothing. 3 minutes, you've got a policy. So go check that out. It's just really interesting what they've done as well. So there's new competitors in this space, fighting for the same share of wallet. And that is sort of also driving people to have a look at a digital strategy and see if it's going to work for them or not. And then obviously it depends on how your business is structured versus is it the way that the advisory side is structured, and is it going to be a hybrid where you sort of marry machine and man and see what the best is that you can do in that space? Or it depends on your approach. Like Mobilife, again, for instance, that's 100% digital, but again, they might just go with physical human distribution as well. Who knows? But the two will work very nicely together. And I think that is really the goal at the end of the day. If we just look at the Uber platform quickly, it's really, you've got clients on the one hand, you've got drivers on the other hand, and all the platform does is it connects them to each other. It makes it easy for them to talk to each other. I've got a need, I'm available, let's get together, I'll pick you up, go drop you off, and I get a fee for that. So that is really where the experience sits. But in the background, that Uber app will connect to third party. Think about like Uber Eats now, where they would actually, you can order food, so it's got to connect to other third party software and systems. And then on the other hand, it's got to connect to the core system, so Uber's own system. And then as well in the middle sits all the customer data that's being collected. And that can be used, obviously, that can be analyzed and then used to better your strategy overall. The one thing that Andy ended off with is this, and it was so powerful for me, is that digital isn't digital anymore. It's just business. That is what business it is. Now it is business. So digital isn't just something that's there and it's new. It's really what businesses are about. So next up was David Wilson. So there's no relation. Wilson, but David comes from Ireland. I believe Andy is from South Africa. I don't know if he hails maybe from Scotland, but because they made a few jokes amongst each other. But be that as it may, they're not related. David is from Objectway in Ireland. Unfortunately, I didn't get everybody's exact titles and what it is that they do, but I don't think that really matters at this point. David started off with this talk, just briefly talking around, the disruptors. As I said, disruption is such a buzzword at the moment. It's actually irritating because everybody's trying to disrupt everything. And I think we should maybe, instead of saying, yes, so disrupt is great, but it's the same as innovation. We're just finding different ways of doing the same thing in a better experience for the client at the end of the day. So yeah, but some of the things that's leading to disruption is obviously analytics and big data, because we've been gathering so much information and we've got the power to analyze these quite quickly through systems and computers. Obviously, that we can see trends and behavior and stuff that it wasn't so easy to identify before. So those are one of the reasons why there's this disruption happening, is because suddenly we've got some facts that we didn't know before. All right, then also if you look at science versus human-based approaches, at Maddox last week, I attended Maddox as well, attended a talk on artificial intelligence. Same thing, if you look at the speed at which these things learn and at which they can make decisions, it is just amazing what they can do. The example is a bit off the point here, but the example they gave is that they used Watson, which is a IBM computer that's been built, and what they did was they deployed that against the medical field. So they got the top 12 oncologists in America, the top 12, and then they got Watson. So they fed it the information, gave the information to the doctors, gave the information to the computer basically, and what they found at the end of the day is that the advice or the prescription or the treatment rather prescribed by Watson was 30% more effective than those of the top 12 oncologists combined. That's really powerful if you think about it. It's actually flippant scary. But anyway, be that as it may, the other reason why we are disrupting or innovating is the fact that there's lower margins. People aren't making as much profit as they used to before for various reasons. We just spoke about like on the well side and the regulation, driving up costs and admin and stealing time. I think it's more about the time we need to spend on regulation versus the advising side and seeing clients. And then obviously competition. I've mentioned that before as well. So there's competitions from all sorts, and it's really driving this whole thing around having to do things in a different way. And if we can do it in a completely different way, I think that's when disruption really happens. They did a survey which was quite interesting for me, because what they did was they went to high net worth individuals and they went to wealth managers looking after their money, and they said, okay, so do you want to work with digital, or would you like a digital option, to sort of engage with your advisor and to do those kind of things? And the high net worth individuals, I haven't got the slide here, but if you look at the response, where the far majority of them said, yes, we will use it, we want it, it's great. Wealth managers, on the other hand, said, no, my clients will never use it, I won't use it, it won't work. So those two are really not talking to each other. And I think the message from that is that clients tell us how they want to work with us. We don't tell them how they are going to work with us. So I think we better start listening and see what options do they need. I think I also had a conversation at the table where it's not just about the current high net worth individuals that we're looking after, or if your client is a high net worth individual, what about his kids? They're definitely going to have a bigger thing or a bigger demand for a digital option. And I don't think it's to say that, we're not going to see you anymore, we're only going digital. That's also stupid. So it's all about how can we offer different, so that at least the client's got a choice of how they want to work with us. And if we don't offer the choice that they want, sort of their way, we should really listen and consider, even if that is not an additional option we should be looking at, so that they can actually then work with us in that manner. All right, so that's very important. Then the other thing was that, and there were people at the table saying, we're quite happy to lag in this instance. We want to see where everything goes, with specifically now referring to robo-advice, and which I think is not a bad idea. But on the other hand, what happens is the people that sort of the digital first players, if the guys that go in first now, but also they first develop or they first design for digital and for mobile, and then they look at the other stuff. They're setting the market benchmark for customer satisfaction. And I think that is critical to understand that has got an impact. So do you want to play a role there, or would you rather sit back and then having to comply almost, or to be measured against those benchmarks set? Then it is really ideal to have a great user experience. I think this is it. So when we think about we need to design this new system, and you want this great experience, it means that, but I've got all these legacy systems sitting in the back, meaning old systems. So I've got some companies run off 12, 13, 14 systems, which they couldn't change just because of the legacy. So it's old systems and they couldn't talk to new technology and whatever. Well, I think by the time they realized that we need one view of the client, it was almost too late to change those things. So to get that, there's many companies that's got this drive to go towards that one view of the customer. But at the end of the day, it's a very expensive exercise. So the message here is to have a fantastic user experience. In other words, a front end that I, as the client, can interact with. And it's a great experience and it looks nice and it's beautiful and it just works and everything. And then in the background, that is really linked. And I think what David referred to as loosely connected. So I'm not an IT person, so I don't know what that really means. But it is loosely connected to the other systems in the background, to your legacy systems and all of the systems that you work with. So instead of trying to change the engine in the back, just make the car's body beautiful. That's sort of the idea in this instance. But I think that was the message. Then the other thing is, and I've had discussions with this with many people since last year as well, is that it's all about collaboration. So it's not like me pushing information to my client all the time. They must be able to talk back, okay? And not only when we meet face to face, but whatever. If he receives a statement on his phone, as an example, he must be able to type back to me in real time and ask questions if they want to. They must have access to me. We must be able to have a video chat, whatever. But I think that is very important. And as I said, I just want to sort of branch out a bit on that the customers tell us what they want and how do they want to work with us. And I mean, there's people that want to do face-to-face and that will never go away. I mean, there's even millennials, I think, that would rather sit with you face to face. Not all of them are like, no, please, I want to talk with you through a phone. But it's just that it's not human. We are built to talk to each other. We are built to thrive on relationships, to create relationships, and to build on relationships. So I don't think that will ever really go away. People make things happen. Machines don't. Machines are tools, and computers and software and everything is tools. All right, but anyway, be that as it may. So maybe you've got clients who wants to just do chat like WhatsApp or video calls. They want to do that. They want to do face-to-face. They want to be able to share documents with you. So I must be able to send a document to you, and you must be able to send a document back to me. So I think that's quite important. Co-browsing, I'm not too sure about the co-browsing stuff, exactly what that is. But then also you need to be able to set an agenda and to know, what you want to talk about and what I need to talk about with you, etc. So that's important. And it must be interactive. So it mustn't be I do and then I wait for a response. And then you do and you wait for a response. It must be real time. So when I talk and then you answer like a phone call or a face-to-face meeting, it must be that. And all of this must be able to be recorded. So quite important. One other major thing that David mentioned, which when he mentioned it, I thought, yeah, that's a no-brainer. But I don't think people think that far always, is that you want this continuity of the experience. And for me, he didn't say it, but in my mind, I'm thinking it's across devices, it's across platforms. So the thing is, whether if I'm working, let's say, like the example he gave is I'm sitting in my office working on my laptop on the website, I need to leave. When I get in the car, when he first mentioned it, I was thinking, then it needs to look exactly the same. So that is a continuity of experience. Whether I log in on my phone or whether I log in on my laptop, the layout, the screens, the look and feel, everything is exactly the same. But it's actually more than that. What he said that is, it is really about starting off where you ended off. So meaning if I got to point C, when I go in on my phone, I'm continuing from point C onwards. I'm not starting the process over again, having to enter information again. It must record it as I'm doing it, no matter what device I'm using. So if I use my laptop up to point C, now I work on my phone from point C to point E, and then when I work on my tablet tonight at home, it goes from point E onwards to the end. So I think that's really powerful. So when designing these things, that's stuff we need to keep in mind, or that you need to keep in mind. All right, so, and then the last thing was, well, second last thing is what he called personalized micro moments. And that is, when the story he shared was with British Airways, where he's always, I'm the same, when I fly Kulula, it's always 16C. And what happened is that every time that if you want to like book in or you want to check in on Kulula or whatever flight, you've got to go through the whole process. Are you Mr. Du Toit? Are you sure you want to check in? Are you sure you don't have this? And then you got to go in and try and book the seat that you want and all of that. But I mean, by the third, fourth, fifth time you're flying and they see you're always booking the same seat, then surely they can sort of, he always sits in 16C. So go in, say, I want to check in, boom, I'm Francois, yes. Thank you, sir, we've booked seat 16C for you and thank you very much. So that is sort of the idea what happened with David through British Airways is exactly that. And he said it was such a nice experience where it was like 1-2 clicks and he was checked in. It wasn't this whole process anymore to get checked in. And then the last thing in it is that you should not forget about self-service. Where the client can log in and they're able to do certain things themselves, because there's a lot of people that just want to go in. They don't want to talk to tell you change my address. They will go and change their address themselves. It's a very simple example. Yeah, so over and all, I think it was a fantastic session. Really got a lot of value from it. I'm so glad I went. So I think digital it's something that we need to embrace and we need to see how do we incorporate it. Not how does it replace what we do. It is how can we use it to better what we do.